Welcome to Mediumship Moments with second-generation psychic medium Kim Dorham. Join her as she shares her personal journey with mediumship, connects with your loved ones, and discusses topics dealing with spirituality.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mediumship Moments. I'm your host, Kim Dorham. I'm a second-generation psychic medium. And today I thought we'd do something fun in honor of Spooktober, or October, but I call it Bootober, Spooktober. I thought that I would talk about a paranormal investigation. And I actually thought that I would talk about the Waverly Institution in Louisville, Kentucky, that I did this investigation with my daughter, Aubrey, who I'd like to introduce now. Hi, Aubrey.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me. I know this is unusual to have a mom who's a psychic medium, let alone 3 generations. 1, 2, 3. Did I say 3? Okay. But we have an unusual background, which we've dealt with. We chatted in the previous podcast about this, but not many mother-daughters or grandmothers, mothers, and daughters do paranormal investigations. So I thought we'd chat about it. So Aubrey, Waverly Hills Sanatorium. It's a former sanatorium located in Waverly Hills, right outside. It's a neighborhood right outside of Louisville. It was built in the early 1900s. That area, because of its wetlands, was just ripe environment for the tuberculosis plague or that was infesting the neighborhood or the region, I should say. So they were given a grant of $25,000, and you think about, well, how much really back then? But this was in 1911, I believe, when it was built. And they built this amazing Georgian type of Gothic-looking building. It's absolutely breathtaking when you come down the road and up to it. It's ominous. It sits on top of a hill, and the thought of putting it on a hill was the aeration from the wind that would actually help the breath of fresh air, so to speak, the sunshine. But actually the sanatorium, the way it was built with these open decks to allow sunshine and breeze, was actually spreading tuberculosis throughout the building itself. So rather ironic what we've learned now. But give me your first impression. Well, what landed us there?
How far back do you want to go? So, well, for people who don't know, I think one of my mom and I's favorite pastimes that we like to do is we do watch other paranormal investigation shows. You name it, we've probably watched it together. I've always enjoyed watching it with her and kind of getting her feel on things. It is entertaining.
Isn't it a typical mother-daughter thing, isn't it?
It is entertainment for us as well. But basically, my love for Waverly Hills started very young when watching these shows, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures. Yeah. It's rated one of the top 10 haunted places in the United States. So, of course, I want to start my bucket list off with that. But for me, I've learned, I'm a big history buff. So learning about this structure and how incredible it was that, people basically built their own ecosystem there. They had their own farm, their own zip code. Nobody could leave the facility. So people who were nurses, doctors, workers there, they dedicated their lives to these patients. And I think it's incredible. So I've always wanted to go to this facility and just see the structure in its entirety. It started off way early in my teenage years when I learned about it, and I learned everything I could about it. And then I've always told my mom, hey, we should go.
Yeah, and it was ironic because we were out there for another reason in Louisville. And you were like, oh, what? We're going to Louisville? Wait, Louisville? Waverly. And the next thing out of Aubrey's breath was, the sanatorium. We have to go to the sanatorium. I'm like, who? What? So obviously she was absolutely thrilled about us going. And I started to do a little bit of research on it. And, they have, around Spooktober, they have tours. But we were going in the first week of December. And so those tours were waning down as it was getting cold. We had a little chat with Courtney, who was the tour guide / security guard who I chatted with, who spoke to Tina, God love her. Tina's last name?
Tina Mattingly.
Who's the owner of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. And she couldn't have been nicer to grant us this opportunity for a private tour give us behind the scenes. It was just amazing. It truly, this 5-story building that could house over 400 patients. And she gave us the history. I've never seen Aubrey's eyes light up as much. We came through the corner. I didn't even know Tina was going to be there. And we came through the doors that Courtney let us in. And Aubrey it's Tina. It's Tina. I'm like, Tina. Tina who? Tina, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Listen, some people like to go to Disney World to see Mickey. I like to go to Waverly Hills and meet Tina for the first time. So Tina, it was lovely meeting you, and thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, she was great. She was great. Can't say enough good things about the people there. They care about the grounds, they care about the history, and they're lovingly restoring it. Downstairs in the lobby, after we met Tina, Courtney brought us through to the lobby area and talked about having groups in there, and just really they have a whole couple of display cases there with instrumentation, as we would deem it barbaric, especially in my background coming from the OR, different instruments that they would use clinically to help these patients. The experiences that Tina had in the lobby of what she was sharing, where they have the offices where people that work there administratively, and then Tina's office is in the back. And was she there by herself with the knocking?
Probably.
She kept hearing, and she said, honestly, things happen to me on a daily basis. So to try and get her to talk about, one thing, but she says they like to play, they like to let you know that they're there, which I always find interesting.
Same way in the lobby too. I believe they also had some art installations from patients. There was a beautiful structure. One patient made completely out of toothpicks.
Yes,
and they made an entire model
of Waverly,
or something similar to that. And it was absolutely incredible. They found so many relics in this building, and it is a labor of love. Tina expressed, we're always working on something there, but she keeps finding more things that patients have left behind.
And it was interesting because when we were talking about the history, it was, they had lost a lot of the records back in the 40s, I think Courtney had said, due to a flood, I believe is what she had said. And then what other remaining historical information that they had from records was actually a disgruntled employee in the 80s that lit it on fire.
Lit it on fire, yes.
Yeah. So I don't want to say working there makes you crazy. I'm just saying there's always disgruntled employees somewhere. But anyway, so they ended up losing a lot of the information that they had. And so now how they glean that information is truly people come in on tours and say, my grandmother was here as a patient, or giving them some type of some background that they can add to their historical records. So we came in, we go through the lobby, and it was just to take in the energy of the building. What did you think the first time you walked in, Aubrey?
I had body chills. Just sheer by the adrenaline, the excitement, but also just memories. You could feel the memories in the walls. I don't know how to describe it.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
that's the energy of the space.
It was so vast. I think
the pictures don't do it justice.
They do not.
Or even the people going on, when you see the YouTubes about it, that drive up the winding road. And as the trees, especially when we were there with limited foliage, just amazing.
Something out of Haunted Mansion, the wrought iron gate that they had to let us in up the hill, and you're just winding through this forest.
Yeah.
Remember, it's on a hill, but it's surrounded by wooded area. So we really didn't see it until you started driving up closer towards it.
So when we got in the building and you felt those memories, is there, did it differ from any other place, or did it feel the same of any other places that you've done paranormal investigations?
So for me personally, I've spent the nights at penitentiaries, asylums, sanatoriums.
This is what she does for fun, folks.
I don't want to classify them all in one group with feelings, but I believe for Waverly Hills, for me personally, I did feel sadness.
Okay.
I felt sadness. But I also felt love within the sadness. You know, again, I go back to the workers there who
Yeah.
dedicated their lives, nurses who lost their lives, doctors who lost their
And
lives.
we'll talk about that story too. It's interesting that you bring that up. So, what kind of equipment did we have?
We were very simple. My personal investigations, I keep it light. I keep it simple.
Yeah,
Less
we were traveling for other means as well. So the idea of schlepping, cases of equipment really wasn't realistic for this trip. So I had my phone. I had a voice recorder, very simplistic to pick up EVPs. What else did we have?
digital. Yeah, we had digital voice recordings for EVPs. We also had light up toys.
Oh, that was cool.
That was a trip to a store on the way. we kept it very, very simple.
So the toy you're talking about, it was a ball that was used up on the fifth floor, the top of the floor, the fourth floor,
The roof.
the roof. So in that area, in the fourth area to the fifth area, one half of it was the nursery, where the kids with TB, tuberculosis, would have. And what is, TB is a lung infection. You could have in other areas, skin, eyes, things like that. But TB typically affects the lungs, and it causes almost holes within the Swiss cheese of the lungs, where they lose this mass to be able to breathe. So anyway, so the kids are upstairs on the fourth floor, half of that for the nursery, and then they had on the roof. They actually had a play area. They had a playground, and so there's been a little boy by the name of
Timmy.
Yep, who was seen interacting with people. And so we brought a light up ball in the hopes of eliciting Timmy or one of the children to play with us. And
It wasn't the only one that was up there. Let's preface that. Many investigations or people have gone there. It's kind of a tradition where people leave.
Now and leave dolls and toys for the kids to play.
Yeah.
On our EVP, you can hear kids giggling. I captured that. It's just a quick little giggle. And I think I'll just take it that they enjoyed us bringing the ball. And even though we didn't have one of them actually throw the ball or pick it up and move it to light it up, we could hear them giggling, which I thought was rather interesting. So when we worked our way from top to bottom, actually, within the building. And to be up there and to think about the children that were there, that they couldn't leave, their family couldn't come and visit them, that this was their home, and it was 24/7. And the staff did as much as they could to give them opportunities to lift the mood with parties, not only birthday parties, but different, whether they were dressing up, whether they had dining, there was a big deal because you put on your Sunday best and went to dinner. So it was just interesting how the staff very much did different things, small little memento things to keep these kids interested, entertained. But I got the biggest kick out of having a playground on top of the roof. I just was like, now they had some kind of safety, but when you're 5 stories up, that was a heck of a place. The only other place I can think of with a playground on the 5th floor would be like Manhattan. But anyway, it was interesting to see all the toys, right? All that.
The toys, the stories behind the toys, people come from all over to pay homage to the children, the innocence of what, the stories behind. And not only that, not only were they by themselves, but some of them had parents that were right below the floor below them.
Yeah.
There were families that came together, unfortunately, to go to Waverly Hills. And
so sad
yeah,
to think that. They talk about the nurses would rock the kids in the rocking chairs, and that they've seen rocking chairs moving back and forth in that area. Let's talk about, as we walk down the building, the next floor. And let's talk about the floor that had Jim, the caretaker, on it. Now, this was really interesting.
Yes, the story about Jim is actually rather recent.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, as Tina said, was a homeless gentleman who would live in the woods right outside of Waverly Hills. And Tina had mentioned that she had had some issues with trespassers coming in, breaking in, and doing damage to the property. And Jim, knowing this, he was actually the one who told Tina about things like, yeah, I saw them go in or whatever. So Tina, being a wonderful human that she is, she's like, well, Jim, what do you think about staying in Waverly Hills if you want to be my quasi security? And that's how that relationship developed. Jim stayed on the third floor.
I think it was
the third floor. Jim also had a dog, which we found out later in the tour. Due to mom's experience.
I was on the floor. When you come, it's so big. I mean, it's just massive. And so we're coming, we'd come up the one side, let's say the staircase, and come through. And as we're coming down, and Courtney was talking about, the different patient rooms and, things of that nature, I had a dog run past me on the left-hand side. And I didn't want to interrupt Courtney while she was speaking and talking to other people. And she goes, oh, and then Aubrey.
Yeah. So we're doing this tour. I noticed right away, I noticed my mom react to something, but everybody else in our group was so focused on Courtney. I was focused on you. And in that same time, while Courtney was talking, I got a whiff of cigarette smoke, reminding you that Waverly Hills had barely any windows. There were no windows. It's a completely open structure. So I'm thinking somebody's down below lighting up a cigarette. Nobody in our group.
Well, on the wing where we were, it was all open for the patient rooms on one side.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was looking around. Nobody's lighting up a cigarette. I mean, we are in this investigate. We are doing this tour, and I look, and it was at a certain room. We had walked by a certain room.
Yeah.
Now, Courtney didn't say anything, and as we walked by, you had the moment where you saw the dog, and I got a whiff of cigarette smoke at the same time. And I let Courtney finish her talking, and I looked at her and I said, Courtney, I said, I have to ask. I said, what is the significance to this room? I said, I just got a whiff of cigarette smoke, and I even peeked below to see if anybody was down in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And she looked at me, and I saw her eyes just get a little bit wider. And she goes, and she kind of smirked, and she goes, "Oh, this was Jim's room."
Yeah.
And everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. We were with a few other friends who were thrilled to be a part of the tour / investigation. And so that's, I think Candace, who was with us, had smelled the smoke as well with you.
But didn't say anything.
Because we didn't want to interrupt, and it was just wild. But here they leave cigarettes for Jim.
In honor of him, yes. They leave cigarettes behind. They leave them in the cupboard where he used to store them. And in fact, we went into the room, and there was a pack of Marlboro sitting right on the shelf. Yeah. And I think everybody in the group was like, "Oh, we're in it now."
We're on the second floor, and all the gloves.
No, I think we were on the third
floor. Yeah, all the gloves are off now. We're seeing, feeling things. I had the impression of a guy about 6 foot on the thinner side, but the jackets that like cowboys wear that kind of look like a trench coat, but I forget what they're called. So, and I could see him with a pigtail behind his ponytail. I'm sorry, in the back. And I felt like the dog was like a golden color, darker, rusty. Probably about 55 to 65 pounds that ran past me. Again, we don't have any pictures of the dog, or they didn't have any pictures, but that was my second impression. And again, when you go on investigations, right, you could have, we didn't even talk about this. You could have intellectual, or residual. So residual would be, could be the children laughing, right? That they always laughed and played in that playroom. So we could have been capturing just the giggle of that slice of history that keeps playing over like a record. Interactive would have been them moving the ball once we had asked them to do so, or making their presence known. And we'll get into how they did that on the next floor. So those are the difference, right? And then EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. For some reason, that it's, these little recorders, it can pick up such precise, you know, discussions without the human ear hearing it or responses to the questions. So that's why, when we came back and then listened to it, then we pick up these things. But that was pretty cool to smell the cigarette smoke and have the dog run past us. I kept feeling like, and even looking over the pictures that we took, that like I could see a head popping out of occasionally out of a room and kind of just like, leaning over and going back. But that floor was pretty cool. That was interesting to see. It was interesting to see where they would wheel them out on the veranda outside of their bedrooms. Was that the same floor of the twin sisters?
I believe so.
I think it was Adeline and maybe Annie. I know they were two A-sounding names. And they kept the sisters together. One actually
survived.
Yeah. And left left her sister who succumbed to TB at Waverly. But we went into the room, and a lot of people have felt the sensation of them being tugged, the cushions going down.
I felt like I got hugged in the one room, but it wasn't like I'm squeezing you. It was like a comforting hug. Like, thanks for being here. Thank you for being in this space with me to communicate with me. And I, in my past investigations, I've had moments here or there. There was just something different about Waverly in the sense of like, it was every floor. We had something happen on every floor. And that is not common in the paranormal investigation world. A lot of people say, why are all these shows filmed at night? If a true place, in my experience, you can go in the daytime, you can go at nighttime. There's always going to be an activity there.
What time did we visit? Was it like 5 to 7?
We went right before sundown.
So it was like 4 to 6. Yeah, yes. I think it was like 4 to 6. So it's,
perfect spooky time.
Yeah, it was afternoon. But and it was interesting. The next floor that we went down was really wild. Because I didn't know the history of it, I didn't. I mean, like Aubrey said, every floor something happened on multiple occasions, like in different spots on the same floor. And so on the next floor that I went down to, I'm walking, and then all of a sudden I felt like my equilibrium was off, like totally off, like I couldn't stand up. And
you were not alone in that.
Courtney started to smile, and she goes, "Yes. This room," and she went on to tell the history of it. People experience that, and it's wild. Like I forget. Yeah, I may be a psychic medium, but I was there because it was really cool, and I was excited that Aubrey was excited, and and I didn't do a deep dive into this because I just wanted to be, I guess, naive to just experience the experience. And here I am walking down the hallway, and boom! All of a sudden, I can't stand up. I have to hold on, like I'm walking, like you're walking forward. Then I'm leaning left, and I'm going left, and I have to actually use the doorway to hold myself up. And that's when Courtney was like, yes, people feel this experience here. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's just the energy there was like a pulling and a tugging is the best way, because Aubrey and I have this ability, we emanate an energy that on the other side is believed that they can see it. So in other words, our auric field emanates an energy and a color that spirits on the other side are like, oh, she can see, she can hear. So they're more drawn to us. So that was pretty cool. It's just wild. But so did you ever have anything malevolent on any of your paranormal investigations or here? Did you have anything at Waverly?
For me personally, I haven't experienced anything malevolent. I've experienced frustrated spirits, spirits who, they might bang a little bit louder on the wall or make their presence a little bit more known. But I personally have never experienced something malevolent. We talk about working in the white light, and I take that into consideration every time I step foot on a new investigation, surrounding myself in the white light, working within the white light, and also just positive energy. You have to think these buildings, these establishments some of them are vacant and some of them lay vacant for a very long time. So when you go in there and you are this energy force, or as we like to say moths to a flame. You know, our flame is brighter than some. And so they just gravitate towards us. And some of them just get so excited that they make louder noises, or they like to be a little closer to you, or touch you, pinch you, poke you.
Yeah, no, we had a couple experiences like that. I had felt, the best way I can describe it is I felt like, I don't want to say there was two hands on my hips, but all of a sudden I started to feel as though I was in, how do I say, like a straitjacket. Like all of a sudden I couldn't expand my lungs. And I just got this squeezing feeling, but nothing like taking my breath away, but just this unbelievable. And that was felt down towards the morgue area.
Yes.
I definitely remember that. Now, talking about the morgue area, always interesting when you go into a morgue. I say that from my nursing background. But here they had something unusual. It was called the chute.
Yes. So the sanatorium had a tunnel, and it was originally built to carry supplies to the main building. However, as the years went by, they then used the tunnel, or the death chute, as they call it.
Because people were dying every hour.
Even less than that.
Yeah.
They had a.
And they didn't want the other people who were at the sanatorium to see that. So much like at the hospital where we put a flat gurney and put the actual body down below, so you never see the outline of the body with a sheet over it. Here they devised the tunnel and then a chute where the bodies would be taken from the sanatorium and then down this, like, pretty much like a steep angle, probably every bit of 30 degrees.
Yes.
And that where the bodies would then be taken to be buried.
Yeah, they tried to keep morale high as best as possible. You know, you have to think in their shoes. One minute you have a roommate, and then the next you don't, and then do you want to see that person being carried away? No. So they developed this for a short time. They used it for that, but since then, it is a very popular location within the. And I had prefaced this to my mom and to the people in our group. I said, "Hey, there's one spot that we are definitely going to that might be a little unnerving to some." I have been in similar situations in the past, so I was a little more immune to it. But just to let you know, we are down almost, I believe it's like 150, 200 feet down
below,
and pitch black.
Pitch black. You walk into this space and it's small, and the chute is to your right, which is an incline where they would put the bodies, and just the bodies would slide down. And then there's to the left steps that you would go down. And so we go into the chute, and Courtney tells us, and then a little bit about the history. We close the door, and we're in pitch black, and all I could see were orbs of light coming to my left, coming to my right, above my head. People were like ducking because you might have thought it was like a drone with a light on it. It was coming so quickly at us. And I did capture a few photographs of that. And that was pretty wild to experience all those orbs and just the energy of that place. And we did walk all the way down to the end in pitch blackness.
We heard some voices too. At least I did.
Yes.
I heard some voices.
We captured some EVPs from that spot. That was pretty intense. We had
some novice in the group, and I believe
of all places to take some people for their first paranormal investigation, they too experienced the orbs coming through, and just what that experience was like for them. So overall, what was your takeaway from Waverly? Did it disappoint? Did it?
Not in the slightest. I'm ready to go back. We had mentioned I would love to stay the night.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I don't know if my mom would want to do that, but I I've done it in the
I'm a
past.
Marriott kind of girl, so
Glamping. No, but I enjoyed it. What can you say when you cross off something off your bucket list?
Yes.
You know, doesn't
Yeah.
matter what it is. It's just something that I've always wanted to do, and it's been completed, and I can't wait to go back and explore it a little bit more. It's something that I will cherish for a lifetime, and I'm so happy we were able to have this experience. I don't think many people can say that. I will definitely. This is going one for the books for sure.
I feel the same way. I mean, I've seen all kinds of different things where we've seen residual energy, where I've seen, Union soldiers, Confederate soldiers. I've had soldiers grab a hold of my leg at the battle. I think it was, I want to call it was Gettysburg, but I forget the exact battle. Anyway, some of the paranormal places that I've gone, the energy has just been so high and so immense and so interactive. And I have to say that this absolutely touched upon that. The energy there, how they made their presence known in EVPs, how we were touched, how doors opened up, the orbs that we saw. And one specific, if I may, I always leave the podcast with a mediumship moment. And this had to do, this touched me deeply. Some things that the stories they can absolutely collaborate with and verify, I should say. And the one story had to do with a nurse who became pregnant while she was there working at the sanatorium. And the thought is that she was devastated by this pregnancy. There was some hutt-a-butt chat that it was she was impregnated by a doctor that worked on staff there. And being so distraught, she ended up unaliving herself on the premises on the 4th floor. And when we were taken to that spot, I was working with the spirit box. You could hear the spirit box is a voice box electronic that works within white noise and uses the library, stored library of words that the spirits can manipulate to bring a word. So in other words, to speak through the library of those words electronically. And as Courtney was telling us the story, that she had pointed to one area and said, I believe this is where she unalived herself. But they believe she actually unalived herself here. And as I'm walking with the spirit box in my hand, walking to the spot that Tina pointed to second, on the spirit box, it said, X marks the spot. And I was like, wow. So, again, the place is just amazing. It is a must investigate. I don't know if I'll be staying overnight, but
I'll send you a postcard.
Take pictures. But my mediumship moment, definitely having that experience with the nurse coming forward and communicating with us through the spirit box, knowing that she cares for those children still on that ward. I hope her work is still healing on the other side. So I thank you all for listening to our podcast about Waverly Hills Sanatorium. And as I always advise, keep chatting with your angels because they can hear you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time for another episode of Mediumship Moments. If you enjoyed this episode of Kim's podcast, check her out on Instagram and TikTok at Kim Dorm Medium.